الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Thank you very much, Brother Shahran, for the introduction, and thank you also to all the participants. I can see here we have 21 of us for this evening. Alhamdulillah, in the midst of in the opening of the 1442 Hijriah. Alhamdulillah. So happy Awal Muharram to all of us. Inshallah, maybe hopefully this will be a good beginning for all of us, inshallah. So as was said by Brother Shahran, inshallah I will continue the class for today, and inshallah today the discussion will be on conventional development management. Okay, I will open my slides. Okay, right. Okay, previously someone asked for the reference for this class. Actually, the reference or the textbook for this class is actually in the process. Inshallah, we should be completing it by this year or early next year, inshallah. Pray for the best, and inshallah I will share on the process when this textbook will be published, inshallah. So actually here the discussion is it takes a few keywords: development management, which consists of managing development, and also Islamic epistemology and Islamic worldview, and also maybe half of us did raise questions in the chat box. Any questions that I missed, or maybe Brother Shahran asked me and I forgot to bring along at the next class, you can always email me at sukaina@usm.my, inshallah. This is my phone number, but only during the office hours. Okay, and you may ask, inshallah, anything, or maybe also give some input or comments on this class, inshallah. So for today, we'll be covering on the recent or the conventional development management, the state of art, okay, and also what are the Islamic perspective on development management. So this will be the second module. The first module was the introduction, a very brief and broad introduction, and I would like to make some amendments to our module. So this is our second class. Okay, I'll be discussing on development management. We'll highlight the conventional the conventional concepts, and also the Islamic discussion, Islamic worldview and Islamic epistemology discussion on the conventional development. And next week, inshallah, as was planned earlier last week, I will be discussing the basic principles of Islamic development management. So today's discussion will be mostly on conventional development management and the Islamic perspective of it. And next week will be the very basic of Islamic development management, which consists of 7 basic principles. Okay. And before going to the very first basic principle, the Islamic worldview, I think this is where I change. It is fair to introduce or discuss on what is actually the conventional understanding of worldview and epistemology. Okay, the approaches and also all types of worldview exist before we go into the Islamic worldview as the mode of development management, and Islamic epistemology as the absolute source of knowledge, and later in the last class, contemporary issues of development management, inshallah. Okay. All right. For today's module, I will go first on development theory, but I would rather say that the discussion will not be too depth because it will take some time to understand on development theory. And it will be a very basic discussion, introduction on development theory, and also the basic philosophy of development of today's development system, and the discussion of the philosophical underpinnings of development before going to management system, the contemporary management system, and also its philosophical underpinnings. This would be the objective of module 2. Okay. If we go to the meaning of development, okay, I can remember from my first classes in understand development, as I was from a pure science background, actually, medical background, actually. So to understand development in a layman terms, my professor gave an analogy from the basic word of development, which comes from velop, which you can relate to envelope. So if you can imagine envelope, which is where we keep our letter, yeah, where we close a closed environment. So if something is with the suffix of development, so prefix of development, so it will be the opposite. We have to open it. We have to put away all the closures. That would be the development. Okay, development, meaning that we have to open our mind. Yeah, we have to open everything for any changes. So if we see from the scholars of development, the gurus of development, we can see from CS, where he defined development as the reduction of poverty, the reduction of inequality, and also unemployment in the community, okay, of the people. And we have Sen here, Amartya Sen, who defined development as something that involves reducing deprivation, broadening choices, more on freedom. His definition state more on freedom, deprivation, which he commented is represent a multidimensional view of poverty, not just hunger, but also illiteracy, illness, poor health, powerlessness, voicelessness, insecurity, humiliation, lack of access to basic infrastructure. Okay, and he highlighted freedom, where his work is Development as a Freedom, the 1999. Okay, all right. So when talking about development, we come up with this, from the definition of the development, we can come up with the categorization of countries in the world according to development. And most of it is determined by the gross national income per capita, where they divide the countries of the world into developing countries and also developed countries. Yeah? And mainly the categorization is based on the income, the economy, okay, the income, the economy. And from this, we can see what is being meant by the conventional development, where we see Todaro here, one of the scholars in development. He come up with 3 objectives of development, the conventional development, which is raising people's living levels, that is income, consumption, levels of food, medical services, education through relevant growth processes. And then creating conditions conducive to growth of people's self-esteem through the establishment of social, political, economic system and institutions which promote human dignity and respect. We discussed last class where one of the main aspect of development is institutional development, political economy development, and also assets. Okay, and the third one is increasing people's freedom to choose by enlarging the range of their choice variables, varieties of goods and services. These are the objective that is being outlined by the conventional thinking of development. Okay, and right, sorry. Okay, I seem to may have lost the title. Actually, here is besides categorization of developing countries and developed countries, there are also categorization of the countries in the world according to the first world, second world, and also the third world categorization, which the first world consists of the block of democratic and industrial countries, still closely related to economy, okay? And the second world consists of the Eastern Bloc, the communist and socialist states, and the third world is most of the countries in the world, okay? And the term of fourth world, which just has been coined in 1970s, means the indigenous people. Okay, the indigenous people of the state. Okay, so actually this is what they call four worlds. The four worlds. Besides, but I think they don't use this anymore. Okay, most of us, either we realize it or not, we are more keen to use the developing and developed countries. Okay, and it is based or indexed by the gross national income, the production, and mainly the economy index. Okay, from this, we can see that the system, the development system of the world actually can be divided into 3 main systems, whereby one of it may not be practiced anymore dominantly, okay, but capitalism is one of them, where in capitalism, this is a system in development where the individual is seen as the most important. Okay, so goods, individuals can have the possession of goods, okay, the possession of goods, and the economy is characterized by private and corporate ownership, okay, of capital goods, and we have the characteristics of free market, okay, where they usually say the term laissez-faire, and investment made by private decision, okay. The government is have less voice, okay, very small, and the community supported by volunteering. Okay, distribution of goods determined by the free market. Okay, the other system, dominant development system is socialism, where in socialism the community is the most important. Okay, the community now, okay, you see the community at first has been doing work voluntarily, and individual is the most important elements in capitalism, but in socialism the community is major and the individual is becoming small, government is big, and characterized by collective ownership, okay, investment made by collective decision, prices and production, and by distribution of goods determined by collective, okay. And the endeavor is on the rights to food, right to housing, okay. All right. We have also a long, it has quite fell apart, okay, from the USSR and also China system, that is communism, where the government is the most important element in the development system, okay. So if we see, this one is actually from the World Bank data in 2000. So maybe it is a bit outdated and it's been 20 years back. But I think that there would be not very much different from now, where we can see the degree of capitalism of the world, mainly in the Northern America, in the Europe, okay, in the Australasia, where the capitalism is more dominant, okay. But as we can see from the map, capitalism is actually the dominant system of the world, okay, the dominant system of the world. Only in small parts of the world where capitalism or the countries are government regulated. So this is the situation of the conventional development today, okay. All right. So, all right, a little bit of spelling mistake here. Dominant. The most dominant development philosophy in the contemporary era. Okay, we can see the root. It rooted from the neoclassical and also radical thinking, where the neoclassical they produce the growth theory. Okay, growth theory, and also another theory, growth and distribution theory. And from this theory comes the capitalism system. Growth theory mainly they have assumption on the limited resources, limited natural resources, and also the unlimited ones. Okay, and growth and distribution is on the distribution theory of the limited resources, okay. And from the radical thinking comes structuralist theory and dependency theory, and from this they develop the socialism and communism system, okay. The discussion on development theories on the neoclassical and radical paradigm will not be discussed because it will take a very long discussion on these theories, on this thinking of development. So if you would like to know more, you can read from the development theory books, inshallah. What I want to highlight here in this class is actually the underlying facts of this system, okay, the capitalism system and also the socialism system, okay. From these two, or basically the neoclassical thinking, which has been come up with capitalism system, they have discussion from Adam Smith and also Rostow, a scholar in the neoclassical paradigm, has discussed on in the growth theory, have discussed on the stages of growth, the 5 stages of growth, okay. where we have the first stage, the traditional society, based on subsistence, farming, fishing, forestry, and some mining. Maybe in Malaysia, if we want to see this traditional society, it would be sometime in the 1940s, the 1950s, where most of the people in the society are farmers, fishermen, okay, involved in mining industry, in mining activities, okay, and to the conventional development views, yeah, from the conventional development views, if we want to develop, we have to let go. We have to leave behind the traditional society to come up with the second stage of growth, that is the preconditions for takeoff, where at this stage, the building infrastructure that is needed for development can only take place, okay, without leaving behind the traditional society. It is believed, the conventional development system believe that they cannot go to the next stage, the preconditions to take off, and the third stage, the takeoff stage, where at this stage, introduction and rapid growth, industrial revolution of manufacturing industries, better infrastructure, financial investment, culture, and change. Because to them, the farming activities, the fishermen activities is not really very competitive from the economic perspective. Okay, so we have to leave that behind to come up to the second stage and to the third stage, and at the fourth stage, drive to maturity, new ideals and technology improve, replace order, okay, industries, economic growth, where the highest or the ultimate goal is to reach mass consumption where people have more wealth, and so they can buy services and goods. They can become consumer society. So welfare systems are fully developed. Okay, we trade expands. So this is mainly the goal of the conventional development, as stated by W.W. Rostow in his 5 stages of growth. Okay, and actually, in the socialism system, there's not much difference. Okay, even though they state that they are from the different philosophy, actually both of them also are targeting at the where everyone in the society can consume, either limitedly or unlimitedly. That is the case. But if we see here, okay, from the perspective of worldview, from the perspective of worldview, we can see that both development system are aiming at consumption. Okay, are aiming at consumption, where they can have either money to buy goods, or can consume services and goods. Okay, these have come, if we looked at, okay, one of the elements of philosophy that underpin this system, okay, is the function of man. Okay, in this system, the function of man. We can see that in the conventional development, as they have put the mass consumption as the main objective of development, yeah, either to come out of poverty, come out of unemployment, come out of not having money to consume. So consumption has been the main goal, and this makes the function of man more towards economy. function of man will only cycle through producing goods and then consuming goods. Okay, producing goods and consuming goods, which makes what they call as economic man or Homo economicus. Okay, so from the worldview of point, the conventional development, okay, one of the issue. Actually, there are many issues, but I want to highlight here. One of the issue in the conventional development, where the function of man has been downgraded to the same level as the things, to the same level as capital, to the same level as the land. Okay, whereas in the Islamic worldview, the function of man should be greater than that. Man is the manager of land, capital, and also others means of production, not supposed to be the same level as other means of production. Okay, so that's the problem from the worldview aspect. Another one is the value of resources. Okay, the natural resources, where especially in the capitalism system. Okay, capitalism system. We see that the natural resources. Okay, the premise. They put the premise of natural resources are scarce resources, and men, which have the exponential growth, has unlimited ones. Okay, unlimited ones. So from this assumption, okay, we can say assumption on the scarcity of natural resources and unlimited ones of men. Actually, if we put the natural resources in Islam, we believe that the natural resources are being created by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and as was said last class, if we put a restriction, a limitation to the natural resources, okay, if you see that our earth, our natural resources will one day become negative, or we wouldn't have any more resources, actually we are putting a limitation to Allah's power. So that will be a problem. And from the Islamic point of view, actually, the unlimited ones is only true only if we do not look into the level of consumption in Islam. Because in Islam we have the level of consumption daruriyah, hajiyah, tahsiniyah, and we are advised not to go until the level of kamaliyah. So if all of us go beyond the level of daruriyah, beyond the level of hajiyah, beyond the level of tahsiniyah, then of course wants cannot be limited. Okay, so from the worldview aspect, there are problems in the assumption in the development system, whether in the function of man in the development system. That is why actually we are proposing in managing the development, we should look into the Islamic worldview and what are the basics of Islamic worldview for development management. Okay, that is the discussion on development. Okay, we have already gone half an hour, so another half an hour or maybe 20 minutes I will discuss on management. Management is very important to make sure the development that we are doing or we are implementing can reach the goal that we expected. Okay, the ultimate goal that we expected. So in management, okay, usually The issue actually, most development system are too focused on the development, as was discussed last week. For example, institutions, the institutional development, they are more focusing on product development, more focusing on the income or the productivity of the institution, whereby they do not really look at the management of the institution. Management is actually the main or important part in order to sustain development. What are the concepts that we should use in managing development? Okay. Into this class, I will not show, but you can actually last week I already showed about what are the dominant management system that has been applied, especially in the Islamic institutions. Mostly they are the quality management concepts, the quality assurance concepts. Okay, and actually because as development, I would also would not discuss on the management too detail, because my main objective is to discuss on the epistemology and the worldview of these concepts. Okay, but if we look into the main management concept that has been used nowadays. Last time, most of management, they are more concerned on quality management. We used to have TQM, total quality management, and now we are more on quality assurance. Okay, but as we go from the to the historical background of this concept, actually, it is formulated around 100 years ago, okay, in 1924, where the US quality scholars, Shuhad, he introduced the SPC, Statistical Production Control, Deming, SQC, Statistical Quality Control, and we have Juran, Total Quality Control. Okay, the early concepts that they introduced in the US, okay, in the Western world, actually did not find favor in the US, except only for the military industry in making weapons. Okay, because at that time they are approaching the World War period. So the quality concept did not find favor in the US at first. Okay, however, after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki event, okay, this quality concept received attention and developed rapidly in Japan. Okay, so they are more dominant in using these quality concepts, and later also there are also scholars, quality scholars from Japan, which Ishikawa, Taguchi, Shingo. Okay, so when Japan really compete with the Western world in the economy, only then they look back into the quality concepts, and new concepts on quality were later introduced by Cosby and Peters. That's a little bit of the historical background of quality management, okay, in development. And Japan, okay, we will discuss this later, all right? Okay. The concepts of quality, either from the US or Japan, okay, actually, even though it is from the different world, the West world and the Eastern world, but intrinsically it is found that it is the same. the primary factor that led to the formation and the development concepts are actually the same. Okay, they have. If we look into the epistemological aspect, okay, where does this quality management knowledge come from? Okay, as was said earlier, okay, the concepts of quality only was used by the Western world to ensure the supply of military weaponries meet the US and alliance demands because of the era, the First World War and Second World War era at that time. But for the Japan, okay, they used the quality concept to develop the economy. Okay, and later, when Japan lead in the economy, economically, the Western world used the quality concept to compete with the Japanese companies. So that's the situation. And the primary motivating factor for this is determined, I could say, single-mindedness to increase or at least preserve the company's competitive edge. Because we see from the Japan, when they have economic downturn after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki event, okay, they turn into quality to develop the economy back. Okay, all right. The primary formation method for this, if you look at the epistemological aspect, are the thought processes. Actually, if we look at the history where Shuhat and Juran, okay, where they actually do observation research experiments in order to come up with the most the best quality concept that they can come up. So they have done quite a lot of experiments, okay, quite a lot of experiment researchers, empirical testing, okay, in order to come up with SQC, SPC, TQC, and we have from Japan, Ishikawa with the fishbone concept, okay, from the West and also Japan. Okay, from the operational wise, as discussed last week, we can see that these concepts, okay, the management concept, encourage the implementation of best management practice. We okay, superficially we can see that from all aspects and process, it is to ensure achievement of development of product, development of HRD, human resource, and whatsoever. That is from the physical and tangible aspect. But is it adequate? Okay, is it adequate in the management of Islamic development? Where we also have defined development in the first class that it is not only on the physical aspect. Development in Islam also take into account the spiritual aspects, the non-physical aspect, the non-material aspects. So are these concepts adequate to manage the development? Okay, and also are these concepts adequate in the realization of the real Islamic development? Okay, so in order to answer that, we should go back into worldview and epistemology. It is not enough to just see, okay, this actually, jihad for continuous improvement. I take this from a Muslim scholar, okay, a Muslim scholar, which said that Kaizen, okay, a management concept from Japan, Toyota, okay, is actually a jihad for continuous improvement. And he quoted Al-Ma'idah, verse 35, okay, where have fear of Allah and seek the means drawing to Him and strive in His way, okay, so that hopefully you will be successful, is one of his ayah that he come up saying that actually there is no difference in the Kaizen concept and also in the Islamic concepts. Just in time, another management concept. This particular scholar also come up with a few Quranic verses on just-in-time concepts, okay, and total quality control. Okay, the same scholar come up with a few Quranic verses. Okay, so is it true that the conventional management concept are in line with Islamic teachings or the Quranic verses, as was said in the Quranic verses? If we see that the formation of the Western management concepts, okay, the scholars are mainly from the West and Japan, okay, and if we go back to their education background, they are all from scientific and technical fields. Most of them are practitioners, okay, from the management background. And so far from my research, I cannot see any form of association from their writings, okay, from their concepts, development to Islam. So the methodology employed also are from the empirical aspects, empirical mostly aspects of epistemology. Okay, and all right, the education background. Okay, most segments of quality concept are technical and mechanically inclined. So we can see that most abstract elements, for example, when you go into management concepts, what are the reasons in the Elton Mayo research of the staff, the employee, cannot perform in production? Is it about the lighting? So they try to research on that, the percentage of lighting, the timing of break, because they cannot see the abstract element, the spiritual problems of the employee. So that is the problem actually. Yeah. So that was what meant by the adequacy of these management concepts in managing development. Okay. All right. Okay. And we can see that there is no inclusion of Islamic sources, of course, yeah, in the concepts that they build. Okay. And also the methodology, which mainly focus on the empirical aspects of knowledge, rational aspects of knowledge, but neglected the hakul yakin sources, okay, sources from the Quran and also the Hadith, especially when managing human beings. So that will be a very big problem. Okay, so because we are approaching 9:45 here, okay. In managing development, we should really look into the ability of the management concepts, the quality concept in analyzing the phenomena and problem not perceptible by the senses and the thought process. Because every day we face problems where employee have problems not really rooted from the physical aspects, not really rooted from the payment, the wages, the break hours, okay, but it comes from their inside, the inner, the nerves, yeah, of the employee, where it is not being developed properly. It is not being fully developed within the Islamic worldview and Islamic epistemological outlines. Okay, and most importantly, the second one, okay, in the Western and also Eastern management concepts and also Mostly the hablum minan nas dimensions are being discussed. Okay, man with man with natural resources, but they don't have the vertical dimensions. The vertical dimensions where the accountability are at most. Okay, are at most. Sorry, here's also a spelling mistake. Hablum minallah. Okay, hablum minallah. So we, in managing development, Islamic development, we have to take into account both dimensions, hablum minallah and also hablum minannas. And the ultimate end of management, of development, is not merely consumption, it's not merely buying goods or having possession of goods, okay, but it has more than that. So this will be the next class, the discussion on the Islamic worldview of development, the Islamic epistemology of development, and also development. So there is a need for management system to be shaped epistemological pathway that conforms with the teaching of Islam, inshallah. So I give back to our brother Shahran with any questions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prof. We straight go to the question from Professor Fat Santoso. Does human being include in resource in Islam? Resource in Islam. Mention a bit about that in your lecture.
Okay. In my research, I would not use that as resource. Okay. Because when we talk about human resource, now they also have human capital concepts. The discussion on human as human resource are more on the resources that they can give to economy, to increase or develop economy, not on more on the functions of human being to worship Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and also to be the Khalifah of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in managing development and also aspects of development. So it would not be enough just to look human beings at the resource aspects, okay, at the resource aspects. But it should be more than that. It should be greater than that, inshallah.
Yeah. Okay, from Brother Yusuf, the conventional model exploits workers and benefit directors, shareholders, and owners. The Islamic model, in its worldview and epistemology, has a different value system of partnership and sharing. What's your comment?
I agree. Couldn't say better. Okay. Actually, that is the thing with conventional development. Okay, because they look at human beings as something that is related to economy, something that is related to profit, something that is related to productivity. When they look at employee, they can only see productivity, not the level of iman of the employee, the level of nafs, the level of mujahadah that they should do during doing their tasks, doing their work, and also in doing teamwork in the institution or in the development. So yeah, it's true. Yeah, they only look man as an economic function or economic man. So it is a form of exploitation actually.
Okay. From Brother Nuruddin, how does development management deal with the post-normal times era? This by Professor Zauddin Sardar, which is built on chaos, unmanageable, and complex principle. Is this new era more conducive for the growth of the Islamic paradigm as a new foundation for global development?
Okay. Okay, Brother Nuruddin, actually I I have a presentation by Professor Shukri focusing on the discussion which was discussed by Zauddin Sardar on this post-normal times. Okay, inshallah, if you can email me, inshallah, I can give you the article on this, inshallah, on the discussion of the post-normal times era.
Okay. Can you brief it a bit for us, Prof, about this discussion on post-normal?
Okay. But okay. The development nowadays, okay, they need the chaos, unmanageable, and complex principles. Actually, even though it is a negative, but some may see that it is needed in development to create change and later progress in development. Okay, progress in development. So, actually, the Islamic worldview has a say in this. Okay, inshallah, I will discuss this in detail next when we discuss on Islamic epistemology and worldview. Inshallah.
We take the last one from Brother Yusuf again. Growth and development are essential for life and living. However, the managerial and highly industrial society is having a bad impact on people's workers' life with stress and socio, psycho, and psychiatric problems, suicide, divorce, and financial problems.
Okay. This is where the development has changed the function of man, okay, from what is stated in the Quran to worship Allah and also to be the Khalifah of Allah, more towards being the economic man or working tremendously in order to make their economic stage or their economic wise life better. So when the lack of the vertical dimensions, the hablum min Allah, there comes these issues, stress, social psycho, because as human, it is fitrah that we need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our life. So if we are lack of that vertical dimension, and this become a big problem, stress and mental issues, psychiatric issues, even suicide. Okay, when there comes the times, especially before, during the economic downturn, also during the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, these are the issues because of lack hablum min Allah dimension of human being.
Okay. Okay, this is the last one. This is a very general one. What is the form of management that Islam promotes?
Okay. If you want to know this, inshallah, you have to stay and inshallah, we will discuss this. It starts with next week, the basic principles of the Islamic development management. Okay. So, inshallah, you can join us next week.
Prof, final words for tonight.
Okay. This one, please. So, thank you very much, everyone, for having patience to hear me out in this class. And I welcome actually any comments, any inputs, because the textbook on Islamic Epistemology and Worldview of Development Management is in progress. So I would welcome comments and inputs on the classes actually. So inshallah, Brother Sharon.
Thank you. Actually, this is a very important topic. I mean, for those who are not purely from Islamic studies to understand development. Although this now is post-development, let's call it. Now, as we mentioned by the Odin Sardar, normal society, everything is chaotic. But to manage in this chaotic time is very urgent, very important, especially with the explosion of this social media and everything seems unorganized. So I think with the new ideas and new research, new ways of handling the whole life is indeed very important. Thank you so much, Prof. Look forward for next week's class, inshallah. Thank you, everyone. Then we meet in other classes tomorrow. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.